same picture, but you see, it only has after the sleigh went through. I brought, I think I might be on this one. She had her art critiqued in Paris and London, Chicago, and New York. And there are write-ups on the backs of these that talk about it. Her husband had worked for Hannah Lay Mercantile, and it gives the dates here, which I don't remember. But when he finished that, he built a golf course, which their home is on Agosa Trail. It still sits right in the exact spot, untouched. And across the road where MCHC is, he built a golf course. They were patrons of the newfound Interlochen Arts Academy because of her art. And can you think of?
Well, that golf course was only a 9-hole one, but it was also the only alternative to not belonging to the country club, which was even then, pretty expensive.
Right.
So
Right.
very thoughtful for the community.
And so feel free to take a look at this. I was fortunate because one of our lifelong friends that Mom and Dad knew from the mink business, and well, we're still friends. They built a home just down from Maud's, and when they were renovating it, they found this picture in the attic.
See? See what I mean?
And
Be on the lookout.
they didn't like it. And they said, well, Michelle, yeah, it looks just like your place on the river, so you can have it. And I'm going, oh my God, they don't know what they gave me. Because I just love the one that I have that Colleen and Tim cannot have. No. And so I said, oh, sure. But it has a couple of chips in it, and I'm sure that it's going to be one of the pieces like you have so many of, that nobody gives a hoot about it if you hadn't been there. So, Tim and I know that we're going to have to get the dumpster, right? Yeah.
No, I tell you, when either of us go, be sure and come to the rummage sale, because honestly, anybody with a good eye, and we're not leaving anybody with a good eye behind, I'm afraid. Well, maybe. She's got grandchildren, I've got zilch, but except a lot of stuff. Anyway, that was just a little sidebar. I want to return now to the Bryses and the wonderful things they've done with that farm. And they've extended their borders. They're just like Germany in the 18th century. Pretty soon you may need a ticket to get onto the peninsula with the famous Brys Pass. But they also are wonderful hosts, and they're doing their entertaining so well. They have now these things called the drinks tree, and for practically peanuts you can have 5 little tastes in 5 glasses and have a lovely afternoon, much cheaper than going to the movies, and perfect for me because I can walk my house guests over there and it gets a few hours to rest. But questions about the vineyards. The overall view, of course, of the old cherry farmers facing the new vineyards has gotten to be kind of a Civil War design, but in fact, I think we will work it all out in the long run because Mother Nature is leaning far toward a climate that is not going to be pursuing the cherry farms, I think, with global warming and all that, where I think the grapes will probably be better off. That's just my view of things, but of course it has made Center Road into the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and especially with the new Ripple Strip. I don't know if all of you appreciate the wonders of that, but I live in my great-grandparents' house built in 1864, so it's quite close to Center Road because you had to get the team out in the winter, And when you come around that curve after you've left the Mapleton store, it's the first time you can pass for 4 miles, the Hog's Back, and you're late for work in Traverse City, so they come around that corner, and they go across the Ripple Strip, and then back across. From 5 a.m. on, it's quite a treat. So, there's words that we're going to be able to pave it over if they ever do, in fact, take our potholes up. I just come back from Ireland last week. I traveled all over the country. There isn't a pothole in the country. They don't have any money in Ireland. How come we've got potholes? But that's a talk for a different time. Excuse me, I forget myself. Any questions about the Browns, the Bryses? How much a bottle costs at their place? Yes, sir.
Well, probably not directly, certainly not on the Brown. I was just interested in the mention of the golf course.
Yes.
Because how many times at the beginning of the 20th century were golf courses built? I mean, there's one over near the water, the hotel.
There used to be an airstrip. They used
Yeah,
to fly
well,
in
that came
there.
after the golf course.
Yeah. Well, I think it was probably cheaper to make a golf course when you could, buy guys for, 5-10 cents an hour. And of course, the summer resorters, as that genre was known as, were rich enough. I mean, are you Neontawatta people?
Yeah.
Are you from Cincinnati originally?
Bob Roots.
Yeah. Well, then you know about Ramsey Minor. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
is- oh,
His
yeah.
cousin.
Well, and that's why that little schoolhouse had to be abandoned, because the Cincinnati people had purchased so much of that school district, and there were no kids there in the wintertime, that got bled into Mapleton School. But poor Carol Ann and Patsy Crope, I had to walk. You were never supposed to have to walk more than 1.5 miles. That's how they designed the 18-mile-long peninsula, 6 school districts, so each kid only had to walk 1.5 miles. And Carol Ann and Patsy had to walk almost 3 miles, but sometimes Perry took them in his truck to come to our schoolhouse in Mapleton.
That article that I have might say something about that golf course, because it would have been in the early 30s.
And I remember it as being very kind of humble, and anybody could come and play it. You didn't have to be a member or anything. I mean, we weren't, cherry farmers never played golf. In fact, they looked down on it considerably. If you wanted to chase a ball around, you ought to get a better job. But it was a lovely, I can remember it because it was that lovely flat where the parking lot sort of is now. And it always interested me when I went by because the flags flying and stuff. Never played golf. Joanne, any questions, Joanne? You look scared. Madam Editor.
Tell us about the frosé, because I keep hearing about this frosé, and I have yet to had one. How did that come about? It seems like it's a super famous thing now.
You know where it came about, don't you?
What is it, first of all? Is it?
It's basically, they take some strawberry juice, the Pinot Noir Riesling, some lemon, and they put it in a margarita machine.
Okay.
And so the same way you would mix up your margarita, it's
Yeah.
that same concept, but with the wine.
Gotcha.
And then, it's kind of a slushy.
It's got ice in it.
Yeah.
It's totally
And
slush.
yeah.
And I have to tell you, I have a lot of house guests and often go to the Bryses so I can, make the dinner. They go, and they come back absolutely gaga about this. But you can't bottle it. I mean, you have to make it when you go home. And where's the ice come from?
So it's a margarita machine, the frozen
I know, but
margarita.
what do you sell?
Huh?
What do you actually sell to the customer?
It's in a glass. So like if you go to a Mexican restaurant and you get a margarita, the same concept.
But you can't buy a bottle of it.
No.
You can't buy a
Right.
gallon of it. You have to have it
just-
live,
yeah.
as it were.
And so, the strawberry juice and the lemon and some wine. So it's a mixture of
Is
things.
it a secret recipe?
Yeah.
She said it was a secret recipe.
I was living in Houston for a while. Well, my dad was transferred to Houston in the 80s, so I grew up there, and when I got married, we lived there, and we recently moved here about 4.5 years ago, full time. So Eric and Patrick, who mostly run the winery, they also lived in Houston. And so at one point it started to become a thing there, what they called like a frozen rosé wine. So, because in Houston, frozen margaritas are very popular at Tex-Mex restaurants. So we kind of were throwing around the idea, and we said, hey, that might be something, and you could use, that. And so that's kind of how it started.
Well, if you want to taste it, you can get, that can be one of your little treats on the wine tree. And it's-
The tasting tower.
You get to pick any of all these choices. You could have 5, and honestly, the tree isn't very expensive. They say those 5 little glasses, the little stemware things, that equals a regular glass and a half of wine that you would order in a regular wine glass. But it's a wonderful way to spend an afternoon. You get the charcuterie and chow down and spend the afternoon watching wedding parties go by. I had a couple of guests recently, I would say older women, but they were about 20 years younger than I was. And we had up on the terrace, there's kind of the primo seat, because here's where all the photographs are taken. And this is now a custom in America for the bride to have her bridesmaids done up in T-shirts with names on, or all sorts of garb, to have, instead of the men's night out, these are the girls' day out or something. And they have to have their photos taken in this one spot, and we had a ringside